I used to believe my wife, Rachel Carter, was the most loyal woman on the planet. We had been married for 12 years, met in college, built a life together, and created what I thought was a rock-solid foundation. She was 36, a marketing director, constantly traveling for work conferences. I never questioned it. I was too busy grinding at my own job as a construction project manager to even entertain the thought of doubt. Then, there was our stepson, Dylan. Rachel had him from a previous relationship, but I raised him like my own. He was 18 and always glued to his phone, uninterested in family life. I figured that was just being a teenager. Turns out, it was something way worse. Life was good until I found the suitcase. It started like any other evening. Rachel was out on another business trip in Chicago, supposedly meeting clients and securing a big deal. I had the weekend to myself, so I decided to clean out the garage. That's when I saw it, an old red suitcase, tucked away in the corner behind some boxes. The thing was, Rachel always took her sleek black travel bag for work trips. I didn't remember seeing this one before. Curiosity got the best of me. I pulled it out, unzipped it, and my world imploded. Inside, I found lingerie I'd never seen her wear, high heels way too flashy for corporate meetings, a hotel keycard, and condoms, unopened, different brand than what we used. My heart started hammering. I dug deeper, and that's when I saw the real gut punch printed flight tickets. But they weren't for Chicago, they were for Miami, for 3 different dates over the past year. Rachel had never once mentioned Miami. I stood there, staring at the evidence, my breathing shallow. My hands were shaking. The woman I trusted with my entire life, the woman who promised me forever, was hiding something massive. I grabbed my phone, went through our old texts, searching for the dates on the tickets. Each time, she had sent me the same kind of message. Landed in Chicago, babe. Long meetings today. Love you. Red heart. I felt like throwing up. I checked my banking app next. My wife and I had a joint account, but she had a separate credit card she used for work expenses. I logged in and scrolled through her transactions. There it was. Multiple charges from 5-star hotels, expensive restaurants, designer stores I knew she never shopped at. And then the biggest red flag, a jewelry store purchase for a $4,500 necklace. I hadn't received a gift from Rachel in years. A storm of emotions crashed through me, rage, disgust, humiliation, but most of all, determination. I wasn't going to lose my mind just yet. I needed proof, real proof, undeniable proof. So, I called the hotel listed on the keycard, gave them Rachel's name, pretending to be her husband checking on a reservation. The receptionist hesitated, but after a little persuasion, she confirmed it. Yes, Miss Carter has stayed with us multiple times, sir. Her usual checking partner is listed as, Mr. Brandon Foster. Would you like me to add your name to the next reservation? I almost dropped the phone. I knew that name. Brandon Foster, 38 years old, CEO of a startup in Miami. Rachel had mentioned him before. She'd called him a good contact in the industry, a valuable client she had to meet in person to secure deals. Yeah, right. I ended the call and sat there, shaking with fury. All this time, Rachel had been playing me for a fool. While I was busting my ass, trusting her, she was jetting off to Miami, sleeping with some rich prick, using our money, and lying straight to my face. And Dylan? Did he know? He was always weird when Rachel left. He never asked where she was going. Never seemed surprised when she disappeared 4 days. I looked around our home, the house I worked my fingers to the bone to provide, and it felt like a damn joke. I wasn't about to sit here and let Rachel walk all over me. No, I was going to tear her world apart. But first, I needed more information, and I knew exactly how to get it. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Rachel had spent years lying to my face, traveling to Miami instead of Chicago, blowing our money on luxury hotels and fancy gifts, all for some rich startup CEO. Every time she kissed me goodbye, every time she whispered, "I love you," before catching a flight, she was really heading straight into his bed. I thought about Dylan, my 18-year-old stepson. Had he known? His behavior had been off for months. Hell, maybe even longer. He never seemed surprised when Rachel disappeared, never questioned her sudden weekend trips. Had I been blind? Was I the only one not in on the secret? I needed real evidence. So I did what any betrayed husband would do. I went straight to my wife's laptop. Rachel was careful. She logged out of most things, kept her phone locked like Fort Knox. But I wasn't an idiot. I knew her passwords, even if she thought I didn't. I opened her email and searched one keyword: Brandon. At first, nothing came up. Just some work-related messages. My pulse pounded as I scrolled, until I noticed something. There was an email folder labeled Work Reports that seemed suspicious. It had been recently accessed. I clicked on it, and that's when my entire world flipped upside down. Inside were hundreds of emails between Rachel and Brandon, but they weren't just love letters or steamy confessions. They were bank transactions, wire transfers, from Brandon's account to Dylan's. Tens of thousands of dollars, $5,000 here, $8,000 there, all sent over the past 2 years. My blood turned to ice. Why the hell was this 38-year-old man paying my 18-year-old stepson? I clicked on the messages. Rachel, Dylan has the files. You'll have them by tonight. Brandon, good. Keep him in line. Another message. Rachel, he's getting nervous. He said he wants more money, or he's out. Brandon, then pay him. You know what's at stake. I felt sick. I wasn't just dealing with an affair. I was dealing with a conspiracy. My wife and stepson were in on something bigger. Something they were hiding from me. My hands trembled as I scrolled deeper. I found an attachment, a video file. I clicked it, and what I saw broke me. The video that changed everything. The screen flickered to life, showing a hotel room. Expensive, dimly lit, a hidden camera angle. Rachel walked in, wearing that same red lingerie I found in her suitcase. Then Brandon entered. They kissed, but the camera wasn't just recording them. It was positioned like a setup, like someone was filming it on purpose. And then Rachel spoke. Is the camera good? Will he be able to see everything? A voice behind the camera responded. A voice I knew. Dylan. Yeah, Mom. He'll see it all. My stepson was filming his own mother's affair. I couldn't breathe. Rachel, good. Make sure he gets the best angles. We need this perfect. Dylan, yeah. You said this will ruin him, right? Rachel, of course. Once we leak this, his wife will leave him, and we'll be set for life. My vision blurred. They weren't just cheating. They were blackmailing Brandon, and Dylan was in on it. My own stepson had been secretly filming his mother sleeping with a millionaire to extort him for money. That's why Brandon had been sending thousands of dollars. That's why Dylan acted so distant. They were running a freaking operation. And the worst part? I was next. At the bottom of the email thread, Rachel had written something that made my heart stop. Once this is done, we move on to plan B. He'll never see it coming. Who was he? Who the hell was next? Then it hit me. She meant me. Rachel was planning to destroy me next. I sat there, my hands in my hair, trying to process it all. The woman I married, the woman I built a life with, had spent years manipulating me, lying to me, and scheming behind my back. But if Rachel thought I was just some clueless husband she could walk all over, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. Because now, it was my turn to play the game, and I was about to ruin everything she built. I sat in my darkened office, staring at the laptop screen. The betrayal, the lies, the blackmail. Rachel and Dylan weren't just cheating me out of a marriage, they were planning to destroy me. And if I didn't act first, they'd get away with it. But I wasn't going to let that happen. No, if my wife and stepson wanted to play dirty, then I was about to burn their entire world to the ground. I took a deep breath and started plotting. Step 1: locking down the money. Rachel thought she was smart. She thought she could just drain me dry and walk away with everything. She forgot one thing. I was the one who handled all our finances. She had no idea I had full access to every joint account. No clue that I had control over every credit card, every mortgage payment, and, most importantly, her personal savings. I logged into our banking app and, within minutes, I froze every joint account. I transferred 90% of our savings to a new account, under my name only. I cancelled all her credit cards. Rachel wouldn't even notice until she tried to use them. She had always been reckless with money, spending without thinking. I knew she'd try to buy something soon, maybe even book another business trip with Brandon. And when her card declined, that was when the real panic would begin. But I wasn't done yet. Step 2: setting the trap. I couldn't just confront Rachel yet. No, that wasn't enough. I wanted to expose her. I wanted to make sure everyone saw her for what she really was. So I needed proof. Concrete, undeniable proof. The video Dylan had recorded? That was perfect. I copied every file, every email, and every transaction record onto a separate hard drive. I made backups. I even printed out some of the worst ones. Then, I sent a little email. Not to Rachel, not to Dylan, to Brandon's wife. I kept it simple. Subject: I think you deserve to know the truth. Body: your husband has been sleeping with my wife. But that's not the worst part. Watch the attached video. You'll see everything. I hit send, and just like that, the first domino fell. Step 3: destroying Dylan. I wasn't done yet. Dylan had been in on this from the start. He had been helping Rachel cheat, filming her affair, and blackmailing Brandon. And now, I was about to make sure he paid for it. First, I checked my home security cameras. We had a system installed months ago, but Rachel never cared about it because she never thought I'd use it against her. I went back and checked old footage, and there it was, clear as day. Dylan, sneaking into my office, opening my desk, taking money from my wallet. I smiled. I finally had a way to take him down. I picked up my phone and called someone I hadn't spoken to in a while, his father. Step 4: the final blow. Rachel's ex-husband, Mark, had always been a bitter, angry man. I never liked him, but I knew one thing: he hated Rachel. She had left him years ago, taken full custody of Dylan, and never let him see his son again. And now, I was about to give him a reason to come back. I dialed his number. "Hello? Hey, Mark, it's Jake." A pause. "Why the hell are you calling me?" "Because I think you'd like to know that your son is about to get into a lot of trouble." Another pause. "What are you talking about?" I smiled. "I've got video proof of Dylan stealing. And not just that, he's been involved in something a lot worse. You might want to lawyer up, because I think you've got a damn good case for full custody." Silence. "Then, send me everything." I did, and just like that, Dylan's world started falling apart. Step 5: the grand reveal. I could have confronted Rachel right then and there, but where was the fun in that? I wanted an audience. So I decided to wait for the perfect moment. And that moment was our wedding anniversary. Rachel had planned a big dinner at a fancy restaurant, invited friends, family, even some of my business partners. She thought it was going to be a celebration. She had no idea it was going to be her funeral. I smiled to myself, picturing the chaos that was about to unfold, because when that night came, I was going to humiliate her, publicly, brutally, and completely. Rachel wanted to play games. She had no idea what was coming. I sat alone in my office, staring at the evidence I had collected. Rachel, Dylan, Brandon, they thought they had me cornered. They thought I was just going to roll over and take it. But they had underestimated me, and that was about to become the biggest mistake of their lives. I wasn't just going to confront them. I was going to destroy them. I leaned back in my chair, steepling my fingers. It was time to plan the perfect revenge. Step 1: cut Rachel off financially. Rachel thought she was in control. She thought she could take my money, blackmail Brandon, and then divorce me while walking away with half of everything I owned. She was wrong. I had been handling all our finances since we got married, and Rachel had no idea just how deep my control ran. First, I accessed our joint accounts and drained them into a new, private account under my name only. Then, I froze all her credit cards. Next, I revoked her access to our savings. And finally, I made a quick call to my lawyer, ensuring that she couldn't touch a single penny if she tried to file for divorce. Rachel wasn't going to see it coming. She'd wake up one morning and realize she was completely broke. But that was just the beginning. Step 2: exposing the affair. I wasn't going to let Rachel and Brandon keep their little secret. No, I was going to make sure everyone knew. First, I emailed the video to Brandon's wife, Emily. Then, I made sure to anonymously send copies to _Mark Brandon's boss at his law firm, _Mark Rachel's company HR, _Mark her closest friends and family, _Mark our neighbors. I even set it up so that every employee at her company would receive an email with a subject line that read, "Urgent, your VP of marketing has been sleeping with a married man." By the time Rachel walked into work the next morning, her entire reputation would be in flames. Step 3: taking down Dylan. Dylan had been a key player in this. He wasn't just a kid caught up in his mom's affair, he was actively helping her, filming her hookups, blackmailing Brandon, and threatening me. I wasn't going to let that slide. So, I did some digging. Using my home security footage, I found videos of Dylan stealing from my wallet, sneaking around in my office, and even texting Rachel about their scam. Then, I made a phone call, not to the police, to his father. Mark, Rachel's ex-husband, had always been a bitter man. He had been denied custody of Dylan after their divorce, and he hated Rachel's guts. This was my ace in the hole. "Mark," I said when he picked up, "I've got something you're going to want to see." He was quiet for a moment. "What the hell do you want, Jake?" "I have video proof that your son has been stealing, helping his mom cheat, and even involved in blackmail." Silence. Then, laughter. "You mean to tell me Rachel turned my boy into a criminal?" I smirked. "That's exactly what I'm saying. Mark's tone turned serious. Send me everything. I'll see you in court. Just like that, Dylan was about to lose everything. He thought he was going to be rich off my money. Instead, he was about to be dragged into a custody battle that would ruin his life. Step 4: Setting the trap. Now, I had to plan the final stage. I wanted Rachel to suffer, and the best way to do that? Public humiliation. Rachel had planned a big anniversary dinner at an upscale restaurant, inviting family, friends, and even some of my business partners. She thought it was going to be a celebration. She had no idea it was going to be her funeral. So, I made a few calls. Heavy check mark. I made sure Brandon's wife would be there. Heavy check mark. I made sure Mark would show up. Heavy check mark. I made sure Dylan would have nowhere to hide. And then, I made sure that Rachel's boss would be there, too. Because what's worse than getting caught cheating? Getting fired on the spot. Step 5: The final blow. The night of the dinner arrived. I dressed in my best suit. Rachel walked in, smiling, thinking it was going to be a perfect evening. She had no idea what was coming. As we took our seats, I leaned in and whispered, "Enjoy your last night as a respectable woman." Rachel frowned. "What are you talking about?" I just smiled. The waiter brought over the first course. And then, I stood up. I cleared my throat and raised my glass. "Before we eat, I just want to make a toast." Everyone looked at me. I smiled at Rachel. "To my wonderful wife, Rachel," I said, my voice dripping with venom, "who has worked so hard, traveling for business, dedicating herself to her career." Rachel's smile faltered. Brandon shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Brandon's wife, Emily, stared at her phone, her hands trembling. And then, I pulled out my laptop. Since we're all here tonight, I thought it would be fun to show everyone what Rachel has really been up to on her business trips. Rachel's face went pale. Before she could speak, I hit play, and right there on the big screen behind me was the video. Rachel, Brandon, in a hotel room, loud, clear, undeniable. Gasps filled the room. Emily screamed and threw her wine at Brandon. Rachel jumped up, shaking. "Jake, turn it off, now." But I wasn't done. I turned to her boss. "This is the kind of employee you're promoting?" I asked. "Cheating on company time? Using company money to book hotels?" Her boss's face turned red. "Rachel," he said, his voice cold, "come to my office first thing Monday." Then, Mark stood up. "I'll be seeing you in family court, Dylan," he said, smiling. "Your days of scamming are over." Rachel collapsed in her chair. She had lost everything. Her job, her money, her reputation, her son. And as I walked out of that restaurant, leaving her behind in complete ruin, I couldn't help but smile, because revenge had never tasted so sweet. I walked out of that restaurant with a smirk on my face. Rachel was destroyed. Brandon was exposed. Dylan was finished. But this wasn't the end. No, I wasn't done. Not yet. Because true revenge isn't just about exposing someone. It's about making sure they never recover. And I was about to bury Rachel so deep that even rock bottom would feel like a luxury. The fallout begins. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of notifications. Heavy check mark. Rachel's boss fired her immediately. Heavy check mark. Brandon's wife filed for divorce. Heavy check mark. Dylan was dragged into a custody battle. And the best part, Rachel's parents disowned her. Her mother called me, voice shaking. "Jake," she said, "I don't know what to say. We're ashamed. We never raised her like this." I let out a dry laugh. "I guess you don't really know someone until you catch them on camera." She sighed. "We're cutting her off financially. She's on her own now." I grinned. Perfect. Rachel had always relied on her parents as a safety net. But now, she had nowhere to run. Brandon's life in ruins. Brandon was completely screwed. The video I sent to his boss didn't just get him fired, it got him blacklisted. No law firm wanted to touch him. And to make matters worse, his wife took everything. She emptied their accounts. She sold his car while he was at work. She even changed the locks on their house and had his stuff thrown on the front lawn. When Brandon tried to beg for mercy, she spat in his face. And as if that wasn't enough, I made sure to post the video on every lawyer's forum I could find. Brandon went from being a respected attorney to a jobless, homeless, disgraced man whose only future was fast food or bankruptcy. And Rachel? She thought he was going to take care of her. She thought they would start fresh. She thought wrong. Because Brandon did what all cowards do when they lose everything. He ghosted her, blocked her number, disappeared. He left her alone in the mess she created. Dylan gets what's coming to him. Dylan thought he was untouchable, but when his father, Mark, took the evidence I gave him to court, the judge ripped Dylan apart. Heavy checkmark he was forced to move in with his dad. Heavy checkmark he lost his car and credit cards. Heavy checkmark his college tuition, gone. Dylan was no longer Rachel's spoiled little prince. Now, he was living in his dad's tiny apartment, broke, furious, and helpless, and I made sure he knew exactly who to blame. A few days later, I got a text from him. Dylan, you ruined my life, you piece of SHT. I hope you rot. Asterisk. I chuckled and replied, me no, Dylan. Your mother ruined your life. I just made sure she paid for it. And that was the last I ever heard from him. Rachel's final breakdown. Rachel hit rock bottom fast. Heavy checkmark she lost her job. Heavy checkmark she lost her parent support. Heavy checkmark she lost Dylan. Heavy checkmark she lost her affair partner. And as her world collapsed, she did the one thing desperate people always do. She tried to come crawling back. It started with text messages. Rachel, Jake, please, let's talk. Rachel, I made a mistake. I see that now. Rachel, I love you. I was just lost. Please don't do this. I ignored her. Then came the calls. She left voicemails, sobbing, screaming, begging. Then she showed up at my office. My secretary called me, sounding nervous. Jake, your wife is here. She's not my wife, I corrected her. And tell her I'm busy. Rachel started showing up everywhere. At my gym, at my favorite coffee shop, even outside my house. I'd catch glimpses of her, hollow-eyed, disheveled, desperate. She looked like a ghost of the woman she once was. One night, I finally let her inside, just to see how far she had fallen. She stood in my living room, tears streaming down her face. I lost everything, Jake, she whispered. I don't know what to do. I crossed my arms. And that's my problem because. She flinched. Please, I know I hurt you, but I can change. We can fix this. I tilted my head. Fix what? You mean your financial situation? She went silent, because that was exactly what she meant. She didn't love me. She never did. She just wanted someone to clean up her mess. I smirked. Rachel, I said slowly, you're nothing to me now. Her breath hitched, and then I dropped the final bomb. I stepped closer, looking her dead in the eye. And one more thing, I said softly. She blinked. What? I grinned. I sold the house. Her jaw dropped. You what? I took out the paperwork and waved it in her face. You thought you could squat in my home? Not anymore. The new owners move in next week. You need to be gone by then. She collapsed. She sobbed so hard she could barely breathe. And I just stood there, watching, enjoying it. Because this was the moment I had been waiting for. The moment she realized there was no escape. The final goodbye. The last time I ever saw Rachel was moving day. I stood outside the house as she loaded her last suitcase into an Uber. She looked at me one last time, her face puffy and hollow. Jake, she whispered, do you really hate me that much? I chuckled. No, Rachel, I said. I just don't care anymore. Then, I turned and walked away. And as her Uber drove off, I felt lighter than I had in years. Because I had done it. I had taken everything back. And now, I was finally free. Rachel was gone. For the first time in years, my life was mine again. No more fake work trips. No more secret affairs. No more lies. But here's the thing about karma. It doesn't stop working just because you've moved on. And Rachel? She still had a long way to fall. Rachel's downward spiral. At first, I thought she'd disappear forever. Maybe start over in a new city. Maybe find some other sucker to take care of her. But no. Rachel was spiraling. The first time I heard about her downfall was through my buddy, Mark. We were grabbing drinks when he suddenly chuckled, scrolling through his phone. You seen this? He asked, showing me a screenshot. It was Rachel, on Facebook Marketplace, selling her designer bags. Her caption? Selling ASAP. Need cash urgently. Price is negotiable. I nearly spit out my beer. Rachel, who used to flaunt her luxury handbags like trophies, was now begging for scraps. And that was just the beginning. A week later, she was posting again. This time, she was looking for a roommate. Rachel, the woman who once refused to live in anything smaller than a 5-bedroom house, was now desperately searching for someone to split rent with. I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. Brandon and Dylan cut her off. Brandon, her ex-lover, had disappeared without a trace. No calls, no texts, no support. She was completely alone. As for Dylan, the spoiled little prince was now miserable living with his dad. I heard through mutual connections that Dylan blamed Rachel for everything. Heavy checkmark she ruined his cushy life. Heavy checkmark she got him cut off financially. Heavy checkmark she turned him into a joke among his friends. One day, Mark sent me another screenshot. This time, a text message between Rachel and Dylan. Rachel: Dylan, please answer me. I need your help. Just a little money, just until I find a new job. Dylan: you ruined my life. Figure it out yourself. I whistled. Damn, even her own son didn't want anything to do with her. She tried to crawl back again. One night, I was out on a date when I got a text from an unknown number. Jake, it's me. Can we talk? I sighed. Blocked. But Rachel wasn't giving up. She started emailing me. Heavy checkmark first, she was apologetic. Heavy checkmark then, she played the victim. Heavy checkmark finally, she got desperate. Rachel: Jake, please, just give me one more chance. I miss you. I love you. I need you. I stared at the email for a moment. Then I hit delete. That chapter of my life was over. But Rachel? She was living in the ruins of her own choices. And it was only going to get worse. She got evicted. One day, Mark called me, laughing so hard he could barely speak. You're not gonna believe this, he said. Rachel just got kicked out of her apartment. I raised an eyebrow. What? Why? She couldn't pay rent. I let out a slow whistle. Rachel, the same woman who once mocked me for budgeting, who used to brag about her shopping sprees, was now homeless. And I was thriving. My new life. Heavy checkmark: I sold the house. Heavy checkmark: I upgraded to a penthouse. Heavy checkmark: I started my own law firm. Heavy checkmark: I was dating again. I had spent so many years trapped in Rachel's web of lies. But now, I was free. And I made sure to live every moment of it. The last time I saw Rachel, one evening, I was at a high-end lounge with some friends when I saw her. Rachel. She was sitting at the bar, alone. Her clothes were cheap. Her makeup was rushed. Her once perfect nails were chipped. And her eyes? Empty. She saw me. Her breath hitched. She stood up, hesitated, then slowly walked toward me. Jake, she whispered. I turned my head slightly. Do I know you? She flinched. Her eyes filled with tears. You do, she choked out. Please, can we talk? I smiled. A slow, cold smile. Then I turned my back to her and walked away. She stood there, alone, forgotten, just like she deserved. Final thoughts. Revenge isn't about anger. It's about making sure they regret everything. And Rachel? She lost everything. Heavy checkmark: her career. Heavy checkmark: her money. Heavy checkmark: her reputation. Heavy checkmark: her family. And the best part? She knew exactly who to blame. Herself. And that was the sweetest revenge of all. The end.